fortunes of both Manchester clubs is interesting. I don't think anybody could have seen what's happened to United. Off the pace, no chance of winning the Premier League title, struggling for Champions League, the coveted Champions League spots. I don't think anyone could have seen that. Me personally, I thought there'd be a transition, but I didn't expect what we've got. We have the same players. I think the players and the new management need to take responsibility. I think it's a case of David Moyes has made a little bit of a faux pas as far as I'm concerned. To totally get rid of Sir Alex Ferguson's backroom team, I think was an error. Because where does he go now in terms of that experience? And the answer is, he's talking to himself really. His coach is Phil Neville. Yes, a United man with honours, but in terms of coaching and getting players to play, especially in difficult times, I think is just beyond that team at the moment. So in terms of United, they've got a struggle on at the moment. And let's be honest, I think a lot of fans are enjoying it because United have had so much success. So, I don't think anyone's having any pity parties for United right now. In terms of City, it's the absolute opposite, isn't it? It's refreshing, it's goals galore. Aguero gets injured, star striker. In steps Edin Dzeko, who would step into any team in the world, never mind the Premier League right now. So the fortunes of both clubs is exciting. For one reason or another, United fans might not want to call it exciting, but it is, because the transition has got to see something come out the other end. Manchester, the noisy neighbours, they are now making one hell of a noise, and those noisy neighbours used to be called City. What's happening in North London right now with the two Premier League sides, Tottenham and Arsenal, I think is really shaping up to be something that I think could dominate Premier League football in years to come. Yes, I know we've got your Chelseas and your Man Cities, but I think what Arsene Wenger's done has been patient. He's taken an awful lot of abuse. I was at the opening game at the Emirates when Villa came to North London and destroyed Arsenal 3-1. I heard the boos. I heard Arsenal fans who are quite calm normally giving Arsene Wenger some stick. But what you have here now, just prior to the new season started, he signed the British guys, the Wiltshires, the Chamberlains, the Ramseys on long-term deals, and I for one was a little bit not too sure about that. But in Arsenal we trust seems to be the motto. He's developed a side there that has got that British core. He's now added a bit of Spanish flair with the Santi Cazorlas of this world, and he's obviously added technical quality, efficiency with the likes of Mesut Ozil. Pierre Mertesacker as a centre half is playing out of his skin right now, and formed an unlikely alliance with Koscielny in the Arsenal back line. I mean, we're sitting here saying that Arsenal have the best defensive record in the Premier League, bar none at the moment, so that tells you all you need to know. And I think there are exciting times there to be had for Arsenal. Just down the road, 7 miles to be precise, I think what has happened there is that Tim Sherwood, and I've got to mention the backroom staff who sat on the bench in terms of Chris Ramsey and Sir Les Ferdinand at Tottenham. I think they've got something really good going on there. I think Tottenham have always had good players. They've certainly got good players now. And I think they're actually now performing for a manager that understands what I call the Tottenham psyche. We want to be cavalier, we want to score goals. We're not too bothered, and I know it wins you titles and championships. We're not too bothered about the defensive efficiency, and when I say we're not too bothered, obviously it's an integral part of the game, but we want to play in the Tottenham way. And I think Tim Sherwood, however unlikely it seemed in terms of taking over from AVB, has done a marvellous job. There are difficult times to come and he's going to have to deal with that, but how does a man get experience? He gets experience by doing the job. So I think North London's in really good shape. Where will they end up come May? I think Arsenal might just fall short for the Premier League, but who expects them to be where they are right now? And in terms of Tottenham, I think they can certainly qualify for Champions League, but both teams have really difficult mountains to climb. But I think from what I can see right now, they're in good stead. both Welsh teams in the Premier League have the real genuine possibility of being relegated. I think what we have with Cardiff, for example, they just simply won't score enough goals. I know they'll be Manchester City at the start of the season at home, Fraser Campbell, etc, etc. They've also got a problem for me that they've got a manager in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer who might go on to be fantastic, ex-United player, so he can probably ring up Sir Alex Ferguson for advice, etc, etc. But they're in a relegation dogfight, and I think that where does he go for his advice on a daily basis? He can't keep ringing up the main man all the time. I think there's just not enough about that Cardiff side that says to me that they can stave off relegation. So I think they've got major problems, and I think I might have called it at the start of the season that I think they'll go down. South Wales also has Swansea. Now Swansea, I've delighted in Swansea since they've come up capital or League Cup win last term, and deservedly so. They play the game the right way. But I think they've got problems. I think I've heard a couple of people saying, I've looked at their game as well, there seems to be no plan B. We're either going to play it slick or we're going to play it slick, and I don't know if you can do that in the Premier League. You need to have a plan B, sometimes a plan C. I think Michael Laudrup is destined for wonderful things as a manager, but I don't think clearly he's going to do that at Swansea. Swansea, if you push me, unlike Cardiff, I think Swansea might just have enough to survive, but it's going to be a problem for them, because if you look at that Premier League table right now, it's a top 10 going for the title, Champions League and Europa League, and there's a bottom 10 who are just trying to stave off relegation. So Swansea, I think, might just make it, but Cardiff for me are doomed. They're like the weather. It is so changeable, and I'm talking about 15 minutes of weather as well. You know, it's a case of if they turn up, they're going to be dangerous. Cabaye, Tiote, Gouffran, Sissoko, Remy, wonderful players, but they need to get their act together. Consistent teams win titles and championships, and they are not consistent, hence they've not done so. On any given day, they could be dangerous. I think the way that the top of the Premier League stands right now, I think that Newcastle at best may get a Europa League spot. But do you want that spot really? I think you get a Europa League spot, and while teams will play in it and say the right things, I think it doesn't help your Premier League campaign the following season, Thursday, Sunday, and it stretches any squads that are small. In terms of West Ham, I think they've got major problems. I've been at Upton Park and covered a few games this season, and I'll tell you why they've got problems. One, I still don't believe that the fans have taken to Big Sam. Two, their acquisition of strikers, signing Carlton Cole, getting Andy Carroll back, may come too late. I think West Ham are very brittle. They are also inconsistent, and I think the pressure that takes place at Upton Park could be their downfall. There might be a team that plays slightly better away, as they showed when they beat Cardiff in a big crunch game about 10 days back. West Ham have got problems, and I tell you why they've got even bigger problems if you want to look at the bigger picture. They've got problems because they're slated to be in the Olympic Stadium in 2016, and I'm sure that the management there have made all those projections based on the club in the Premier League. If they're not, I think Karen Brady, Sullivan and Gold will have major problems. So right now, West Ham, couldn't call it. If I'm pushed, and I'm always pushed, I think Cardiff, West Ham, and another, and that another will change as every week goes by, as this current Premier League season has proved. Problems for Chris Hughton and Norwich are quite a few, if I'm honest. I think that there's a team there that doesn't have a natural goal scorer. Why are goal scorers paid much more than the guys sitting left and right of them in the dressing room? Simply because they do the thing that gets you out of trouble or wins you titles, cups, trophies. They score goals. And I look at that Norwich side and I see them just about getting through. If Norwich do survive, it's only going to be because of a three worse sides than them clearly in the Premier League. I think Chris might say to himself that he's slightly disappointed in some of the acquisitions that he's made, not in terms of him making them, but the end product from those guys. I hope they survive, but Norwich for me, they're a mid-table team at best, and at worst they're always generally going to struggle, I think, in and around that relegation scenario. So I think it might be a case of survival this year for Chrissy and all those faithful up in Norwich, but I also think it's a case of you might have to look at your strategy going into a new season should they survive, and look to do things slightly differently. The relegation battle, as I said, it's a case of 10 teams trying to stay off relegation. Why is it like that? I think that a lot of the teams now on equal footings. You've got Crystal Palace, you've got your Hulls, you've got your Sunderlands, and I think it's like that because everybody's gone to a certain standard. I know we're talking about relegation, but it's very much part of football. It's about that ability to survive. I look at someone like Gus Poyet at Sunderland. He's coming after some disastrous stuff happening at the club under Di Canio, and he's decided, Gus Poyet, that his team are going to play their way out of trouble, and the results are there for all to see. I like what he's trying to do. It's called brave, it's courageous. Some people question it. You look at Tony Pulis, who's been around the block with Stoke City for the best part of a decade. He's coming at Crystal Palace, and he's doing it his way, where they're defensively tight now, etc., etc. They grab a goal, they try and hold on to it. So everybody's having to do their own thing in battle, and the reason is, I think that what we have with the TV money, for example, in the Premier League, there are the haves who continue to have, and I think you have the have-nots who, if you like, are actually going backwards. I think sooner or later you will have an even more elite Premier League. It might be an elite European League, and then the clubs in and around the bottom of the Premier League right now might end up in a new division as such, that's sort of in between the Premier League, in between that new European League. So while it's exciting to watch, I think that the financial people that look after the Premier League are saying, something needs to change here, because the teams in the top 6, the teams in the top 10 are all pulling away from those in the bottom half of the table. Team of the week, that's a great question. Team of the week, for me, that probably has to be Manchester City. You know why? Because they've scored 103 goals in all competitions. I don't care what anyone wants to say. I like my football like that. Score goals, make it exciting for the paying customers. Listen, season tickets and tickets generally for football matches are a little bit like tube tickets for me. They'll go up every year, and you sometimes wonder what the value of them going up is. For me, City, playing it in the right way, exciting people, always want to score goals. In fact, if you think about it, they're a very high-class Newcastle United under Kevin Keegan. You score 6, we'll score 10. And while that sounds laughable, I think someone will one day score 10 goals against a team. And right now you couldn't discount, that being City. I like what they do. I like how Mr. Pellegrini's come in from Mancini, and it's almost been a seamless transition. But the one change is Mancini, with his Italian attitude, has probably say, we'll only go so far. Pellegrini, let's go for gold. If City win the title come next May, I don't think anybody's going to cry or be too upset.